Hello. I hadn't done any videos with my face recently, and I just realized I had been doing like one video per day almost, and I wasn't going to do anything today, but I thought I would show you what I'm reading right now. I don't really have much time to read now because I'm actually writing something for what I'm studying here. But I think it's I like to be always like looking for things and seeing like what's interesting out there. So I have a few suggestions. This is what I have right now. I have been renting from the local libraries a lot. There's a really good library system here in Barcelona. If you have a good system in your city, in your area, just use it because libraries are great. You can now find like all sorts of things, not only like super long novels, but also graphic novels and comic books and books about cinema and art and history and just everything. Even video games or things like that. So I think it's very interesting. You head out to your library and just take advantage of it. Normally, I think in my city and here in Barcelona, it's free. You just have to go with your passport and or your ID or whatever you have, and they will make like the card for you. So it's really easy. So let's see. I had another one here. These books are in Spanish. No, none of them is really in English, but you can find them in English, I think, or in the original language if you know those languages. So my first suggestion is this book. Actually, it's not only this book, but the series involving this book. I'm going to put it closer here. This one is called Antares, which is a star located very far in the, I don't know, is it another galaxy or I think it is in another galaxy. Oh no, outside the solar system in the Milky Way. So, and it has really nice, you can see here the drawings. The writer is called Leo. It says it here. I don't know if you can see it here. And Leo is a writer from Brazil, but he works in, where else but in Belgium. Belgium is a great place if you want to go to buy like graphic novels or like bande dessinée, which is the cartoon type of it's like a graphic novel basically, but it's more directed towards children. So if you go to Belgium, it's the place where they created Tintin, and they created the Smurfs and a lot of other characters. So this series is called here it's in Spanish, but it's called The Worlds of Aldebaran. Aldebaran is another planet, it's not a star, located somewhere in the galaxy, and it's the first book. It's Aldebaran, and then it's Beetlejuice, not like the movie. It's written in another. I think there's a joke in the movie about that. And Antares, and there's also a fourth one which is called Survivors. I think the original language is not Portuguese; it's French. So you can get the originals. In France and in all of Europe, I think you can find these books, and they're great. They are divided in chapters because it was published in chapters, but now this is the integral, like the complete edition, if you will. And it's basically about a woman, a girl, that has to grow up like really fast because she lives in Aldebaran, and Aldebaran is a colony of Earth, but they have been out of communication with Earth for some time, and then something happens, and there's creatures and monsters, and then humans come back, and it has a lot of themes of colonization and sexism and everything. There's every single social issue in these books, and I think that's why I really like them, because the I mean, the protagonist is a woman. The main characters are women. Men are normally horrible or just men. I mean, they're not portrayed in a bad light, not all of them, but it's a story about women and about life and you know what you can do to make things better, and I think it's great. I think it's really interesting. Look at these drawings, they're just fantastic. If you like science fiction, that will be just for you. The writer is definitely not ashamed to portray the human body, which I think is great. The characters are like here, they're always naked sometimes, and the facial expressions, everything is really great in these books. So I really recommend that if you like science fiction and just that sort of thing. I think it's great. I also recommend, not exactly this book, but this series of comic books. This is a compilation of various important comic books by Alan Moore, who has written a lot of stories for DC Comics. I mean, he's really renowned for the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. He wrote Watchmen. He wrote From Hell. He wrote. I was going to say V for Vendetta, but that wasn't him, I think. but he has written some great comic book, graphic novel stories. And here there's a compilation called the DC Universe of Alan Moore. Here, and you can see all the characters he has used in his stories from the DC Universe: Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, and Joker. And in this compilation, the great story that I wanted to read, because it's now super in fashion, it's The Killing Joke, which is like a very important story involving the Joker, Batgirl, and Batman. I mean, it's not real spoiler, but something happened. I mean, I'm not going to say, but something really big happens, and it's really important for the story of these characters. There are some other stories right here. I'll check them. Some from Superman, some from Wonder Woman, Batman. Who else? Omega Man. I don't know who that is. Green Lantern. And it's really interesting because it's a lot of different characters, and the Swamp Thing, I think this is one. But I think it's great because I mean, I'm not really that much of a fan of DC Comics. I normally prefer Marvel Comics, but he does great stories, and I recently just rewatched the whole seasons, all the seasons of Justice League, and I think, I mean, the DC Universe, if you will, has a lot of potential, and I think it has yet to be explored both in movies and elsewhere. So really recommended. Everything by Alan Moore. Watchmen is the best graphic novel ever. It's huge, it's super expensive if you want to buy it, but it's really worth it. I mean, I really liked it. This is also a recommendation from film and to read. It's Nausicaa, it's in Spanish here. Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind by Hayao Miyazaki. As you know, Hayao Miyazaki is a film director, but here he did the comic book, the anime series, the manga series, sorry, for his first big movie, which was Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, which is considered by some the first movie by the Ghibli studio, or Studio Ghibli, whatever you want to call it. It's in black and white, as you can see. Very simple drawing, but very nice drawing. It has a very nice message about nature, and it's divided into chapters. I have been reading number 1 here, but they're like 6 chapters, and the movie is an hour and a half long, and you should really see it because it's really an important movie for Japanese animation, I think, and for the filmography of Hayao Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli, because it was the first, practically the first, not really the first, but practically the first. It has a lot of the messages he likes to like put in his movies, and it has a nice message about nature and about working together and about being strong and resilient. And again, just like Antares before, the leading character is a woman, a young woman in this case. And I think that's very important in the world today. I mean, we just have to get rid of this character. I mean, I just noticed in all these books, we just have to get rid of that idea that only men can lead a group or a novel or a movie or whatever. And I think this story is proof. And actually, the whole filmography of Hayao Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli actually is like that. So you should really get that if you can, the manga or the movie. The movie is much easier to get. There's a Ghibli collection in DVD and Blu-ray, so it's like black and gold. You have Totoro, you have Nausicaa, you have Castle in the Sky, you have some other movies Hayao Miyazaki has made, like with other companies before Ghibli existed. So super recommended. I mean, not only the manga but the movies. This is a writer I have been reading. I've read a couple of things by him. His name is Jiro Taniguchi, who is, I mean, I know it's not pronounced that way, but whatever. He's Japanese, of course, and with Masayuki Kusumi, he did this manga here. This is the second part. It's in English, I think it's called The Solitary Gourmet. And basically, it's not really a story, a graphic novel, but it's about food, about Japanese food, and it's great because it's divided into chapters, and each chapter is a recipe, like something he ate, the character eats that day, and there's something always happening to him at the same time, like people are being annoying in the restaurant, or he had a heavy day at work, or he met someone very intriguing. I mean, it's really nice. There's a TV series done by TV Tokyo. I saw it. It's rather funny, and it was the same thing. Like like something happened, but the really big protagonist was not even the character, who is called, I don't know who he's called. Yeah, I mean, he's not even the protagonist. He is his name is Goro Inokashira. He's not the protagonist. The protagonist is the food. So I think it's really, really interesting. Also, I have been reading another couple of books by him. This is the first part, and that's the second part. I won't show it because the images, it's exactly the same. It's called The Sweet Years. So The Sweet Years, it's about a woman, not a young woman. She's about 40 years old. I mean, that's not old either, but I mean, that's her here in the back of the book. And it's about her and her meeting a former teacher from her, I don't know if it's college or high school. I think it's high school. Or maybe, I don't remember if it was college. No, it was high school, because he was his like literature teacher. So it's really entertaining because it's all about this weird relationship they create between each other, and you know, how you change with people that you don't expect to change with. I mean, she has had like boyfriends and everything, but she's really herself with him, with this older man that appears out of nowhere. And she realizes this, and it's really, really particular. I mean, it's really special, let's say. And and again, and the drawings are just like the ones in The Solitary Gourmet. I mean, it's not the same person doing that job, but it's very similar actually, and it has a lot of references to Japanese culture, and I think it's great. I think it's really interesting to see how people, I mean, people everywhere feel the same things, but they process it in different ways. So I think it's really interesting to read books like that, that give you that insight into people's lives. I'm not big on, not at all, but but certainly not now. I'm not really a fan of novels, of the big novel, like 300 pages where nothing happens, and I just don't like that. I get very bored very fast, and normally I was trying to read this. I don't know if you have seen this movie called A Single Man. It was a book at first, and I tried to read the book, and I read like I don't know, 60 pages or something, and I just got so bored, and I just returned it and said, okay, I'm not reading that right now. Maybe in the future, but not right now. I have read other books. I have read a lot of LGBT literature. I've been trying to know more about that, more authors. There's not really that many, that many that are not super mainstream, like, I don't know, Oscar Wilde or Truman Capote or something like that. I wanted to know, there are graphic novels, also LGBT graphic novels, and that's great. You should check out some of that. I don't really have any names to give you, but I know there are a lot. Some have very sexual references, so if you're not into that, you may not like it, but I think they're great. Many of them are great, the drawings, everything. So I hope I can get some images around here or some recommendations down below about that, because right now I don't remember any of the names. But I think one of the graphic novels, LGBT graphic novels that I read are a series, like two-part series, and they're from here, from Spain. And here there's a lot of not only a large gay community, but also a great movement of graphic novels and literature. So I think it's great. We don't really have that back in South America. So I think that if you can, you should absolutely try to get the widest my computer, the widest view you can of the world. I think that's very important, and not only LGBT literature, but women's literature. From the woman point of view, children's books. I've seen lots of movies. I think that's important, and different types of movies. I don't like when people say, "Oh, I don't like science fiction. I don't like dramas. I don't like whatever." Just look at it. You might find. You may not like the whole movie, but you might discover things that you like in all sort of artistic forms, and artistic forms like comic books, like literature, like movies, like whatever video. These YouTube videos, there's a lot you can learn, and I think that's important. So right now I'm just saying goodbye. Sorry if there's a little bit of noise, or if the camera is not that bright this time, but yeah, that's what I have for today. I think it will be a bit longer, the video from today, but that's okay. I just hope I can get it up really fast. Okay, have a nice day, and please look for these books. I will link all websites or everything I can find from these authors or from these books down below, so you can check them out. So have a nice day and read.